Hello! It is I, Andrine, Jewish American Priestess, and I'm here today with our end of the year Hebrew reading, end of the year 2022. I guess that makes it the beginning of the year for 2023. And we're going to do a couple of, I think, big readings, sort of like I'm going to throw everything down and see what that whole situation is going to look like. And we're not going to do a pick a card this time. We're just going to do, Hebrunes and then maybe throw some runes down too. So first thing I'm going to do is shuffle up these Hebrunes, and then we're just going to take the whole situation, whole spread. Alright, so when we do a full spread like this, the first thing we do is we take out all the ones that are face down and remove those from our reading, and then that one gets to stay because that's the blank. Okay, and that one comes away. Okay, so then I like to turn them face up so I can see what I'm looking at rather than having to try to read things upside down. Put them in basically the same place they're in, but face up. All right. And then we take a look at our situation and we see what is the central issue here. And from where I'm sitting, it's bait. And that is our central issue right here for 2023. And that's perfect because bait is about the home. It's about the house. It's a house, but it's also, it's about where do we live? Like, where do we live? Do we live on this planet? Do we live in the body? What is our home? What is the structure that we exist in? What's our dwelling place? It corresponds to the planet Saturn in the sky. And it corresponds to the day Shabbat in the week. So it's about rest. Shabbat means rest. And it's our home. It's how are we taking care of our home right now? How are we taking care of that body where we dwell? How are we resting? How are we, where are we sitting in our lives? Beit is the binary transformation of life and death. So many of these letters in the Sefer Yetzirah, the book of creation, have a correspondence to a binary transformation. Many of the letters are double letters. The Beit and Veit, for instance, are letters that have two different sounds, the Gimel and Gimel. So those letters that have a double sound are also given the binary foundation of two different opposites, so life and death. In this case, Beit is the foundation of life and death. So we get to choose. We get to choose every day. How are we going to live? Are we going to live? Are we going to die? What will fulfill and help us in our life? And how can we move forward toward that? Beit is the first letter of the Torah, Bereshit. It starts with B, Bereshit, in the beginning. It means in. It means in, and it means of, and it means to. It has a lot of, and with. It means a lot of prepositional meanings, and they all come down to how do we live in, with, to our home. How do we find a way to our home, and how do we live there, or are we choosing to die there? And again, death isn't necessarily a bad thing. There's transformation that comes with death. So we get to decide how we're going to live and how we're going to die. And how are we going to rest? How are we going to find that rest in our life, and how are we going to find that rest in our death as well? It governs over the mouth and the body. And I don't know if we can see it here. No, we don't have the pay on the table. But this fits inside the letter pay, which is the letter that is that means mouth. And it is as if the divine is speaking the first word into creation. The bait fits right inside the pay. So it's that word, that first letter coming out of the divine mouth, Bereshit. And so how are we using our mouth? How are we bringing blessing into our life with our mouths? How are we, what are we feeding our bodies? What are we putting into our mouths that nourishes us? In my understanding of it, its correspondences to the traditional tarot cards, it represents the World card. And I know the World card is the last card in the major arcana of the tarot, but it's the first letter in the Torah. So it has to do with beginnings and endings. It has to do with, again, the binary foundation of life and death. The world, where do we dwell? We dwell here, on the earth, right here. Hamakom, the place. Hamakom Hazeh, our place. And in the runes, it corresponds with the rune Othala, which means home, hearth, ancestry, estate, heritage, inheritance, property. So, yeah, home. So that's our central issue. And then we have all the stuff around it. Let's start with the furthest up. And what we have the furthest up is the Samech. And you can see the Samech is it's way up here on the above line. And when we're looking at a reading like this, I'm seeing the things above as things that are going to be helpful, and the things below that are challenges, and the things that are right in the center is sort of the path line that we're working with. Now, Samech is the letter that means a circle or a cycle. It's the thing that surrounds. It's got this foundation of agitation with it. It's like a thorn. In the ancient Paleo-Hebrew, in the Proto-Hebrew, the Samech looks like a thorn. And here it looks like a circle because thorny hedges were used to surround a property to protect the property and to protect the livestock, and also to keep the livestock in. So it's about being surrounded with protection, and that's a really positive thing. And it has to do with this idea of things that are cycles. So things that go around, and that's like the seasons and any habits and the time, the year, the wheel of the year. And so Samech has to do with that idea of cycles and circles and seasons, but it also has to do with boundaries, creating good boundaries that will give us support and surround us with protection. Even if it causes some agitation, even if there's a little bit of thorniness to it. Setting good boundaries is going to be really important this year as we find ourselves in our home place. And setting up positive cycles so that we don't end up confounding ourselves. In my understanding of the tarot correlations, the Samech corresponds to the Wheel of Fortune. So it's about wheels and cycles and seasons and change and luck. And similarly, in the runes, in the Nordic runes, it would correspond to Yera, which is a year or cycles or harvest. So those are the things that are going to be really positive for us. Being aware that everything is cycled, being aware that everything changes and comes to an end, being protective by setting up good boundaries in our lives. Those are the things that are going to be the most useful for us in this year. Coming down a little bit, here we've got the blank rune, Hebrew. And there is no corresponding tarot card to the blank, unless you have a blank card in your deck, which some people, I suppose, do. But it does correspond to the Nordic rune Weird, W-Y-R-D. Its origin for the word weird. And it means fate, destiny, peculiarity, or particularity, maybe both. But in the Hebrew, it corresponds to the Ein Sof, that without end. And again, this is a little higher than the central issue. So what's going to be useful for us is remembering that that there's this boundlessness in the universe, that there is this timeless place, the void that came before time, the void that came before space, and the void that came before matter. There's this primordial material that is made up of divinity that exists everywhere, and out of which everything is manufactured. It is it's about the understanding that before time there's only oneness, that all of existence, matter and time, is fashioned from that oneness and connected to each other, connected to itself. That we all were, are, and will be the one. So that's going to be important, is remembering, again, along with the fact that everything changes and ends, that there is this endlessness as well. That is always there. That the void exists no matter what. Maybe it corresponds to dark matter. I don't know. That thing that we don't see, but we can tell it's there by how other things behave around it. And next, I'm seeing the Tzadi. And Tzadi is the letter that means justice, or Tzadi means righteousness, righteous one. So justice and righteousness is right there. Again, slightly higher, something that is important and going to be helpful. It's focusing on justice. The Tzadi also begins the word tzayid, which means hunting. And so it's about searching for justice. And some say that the tzadi looks like a bent over nun right here with a yud on its back. And the nun is all about humility. So it's about being humble, but carrying the divine with you, or finding the divine at your back. And that will bring us to righteousness or justice. And hunting for that in the world, hunting for goodness and righteousness and justice in the world. It is the number 90, which is 10 times 9. 9 in Gematria is the letter Tet, and it stands for a womb or a container, or the goodness within a thing. And so 10 times that goodness is righteousness or justice, the ultimate manifestation of something that is good. And also the ultimate manifestation of gestation. 90 is the number of years old that Sarah was when she gave birth to Yitzhak. So it has to do with, again, the ultimate manifestation of goodness and gestation comes to justice. It is the 18th letter of the alphabet, so it also corresponds to life. Life being Chai. Chai is the Chet and the Yud, which spells Chai, and it adds up to 18. And a tzaddik is one who fulfills their life's purpose by being a tzaddik, bringing long life. Yeah, so fighting for justice or searching for justice is going to be really essential in 2023. So let's keep that in mind as well. And then going down a little bit further on, like this is on the path line, that a ways back we have the letter Chet. And this has come before. Chet is the letter that begins the word Chai, so it's about life. It's also the word that letter that begins the word choshek, which means darkness. So we've had a combination of life and darkness that we've just come through. I think that's appropriate for having just passed through the solstice and Hanukkah. Hanukkah also beginning with Chet. So we have this in the past, something that was darkness, the solstice, light, the lights of Hanukkah, and life, Chai, having survived all that dark times that we just came through, including the last 3 years, which have been really dark with the COVID and all the other shutdowns and economic downturns, etc., etc. So we've come through this time of darkness, and we have found life through it. Most of us have, at any rate. So here we have Chet sitting on the path line, showing us the way forward. Chet is the number 8, and it is therefore corresponding to the infinite. 8 on its side looks like an infinity symbol, and 8 is one more than 7. 7 is the number of days of creation. So we have this idea of the infinite that has come before us. So we've got infinite here, and we've also got the infinite here. And those are the things that we need to remember are both ongoing on our path, as well as going to be helpful to remember that we've got the infinite there. And then below the Chet, we have the Tet. And Tet is the letter that begins the word Tov, Tov meaning good. It is a container. It is said to be a womb. It is the number 9, which is the 9 months of gestation for the human in the body. So this is being lower on the pattern here would indicate that there may be some challenges with gestation. There may be some kind of challenge with waiting, having to wait out a thing that we've had something that hopefully we're hoping is good within, but maybe we're unsure, maybe we're afraid that there isn't goodness within all of this darkness that we've just come through. But if we are concerned about whether the waiting is worth it, or whether there's good within the womb that we've been gestating, the thing to remember is that nothing stays the same. Everything cycles through, everything changes, and that the infinite is with us regardless. And so if we're finding some fear or concern or challenges around that idea of gestation and goodness, that we need to bring ourselves back up to the reminder that the infinite and the cycles continue. The other thing we have here is the ayin. An ayin is an eye. It's about seeing clearly. It is also the foundation of laughter. So ayin is an interesting combination of two things. It's about seeing clearly. It's about being watched over by divinity. And it is also about laughter. So since it's slightly lower, I'm going to guess that there's been a little bit of challenge with that. There's been a little challenge of not quite being able to see what's the right way forward, not being able to find that justice maybe that we've been seeking, and that that it's been difficult to laugh, that things have been really challenging, and there hasn't been a lot of joy in the life recently. That perhaps there is an issue with feeling secure, feeling like you have been watched over by the divine, that maybe there's again concern, of fear about is the divine even, does the divine even care? But the reality of it is to remember that the divine is everywhere. It is all things. It is you and it is me, and it's this crystal ball and that candle and these stones and all the things that the divine cares about us as much as it cares about itself, because we are all the same stuff. We're all made out of that same fabric. So if we've had some difficulty seeing maybe the good in things and seeing through the dark times, that we can bring ourselves back up to this understanding that the infinite is here, that there is it is worth hunting for justice, and that everything changes, that we don't have to worry too much for too long, because cycles come and cycles go. And then what we have here above the Beit is the Aleph, and the Aleph is the number 1. It is the first letter in the alphabet, and it stands for oneness. It is that combination of divinity and humanity. You can see that it's got a yud above and a yud below and a vav between, which would indicate the divine above and the divine below within the world, as well as that connecting vav and with it. Aleph is the letter that begins most of the names of the divine. El and Elohim and Adonai all begin with Aleph. And so it is the number one, but it also is the word Aleph, which means 1,000. So it's multiplicity within unity and unity within multiplicity. We have one universe, but we've got billions of stars, trillions of stars. We've got one body, but we've got trillions of cells within it. And all things are made up of that, again, same primordial material that is that oneness. And we can rely on that as we are trying to find our peace and rest in this home here. And as we move forward on the path line, I'm seeing the letter Kaf. And Kaf is the palm of a hand, and it is a letter that begins the word koach, which means power. So it's like the things that one can use one's hand for. You can use your hand to wield power over another. You can be generous by giving and or receiving. And it's also about what goes over one's head. So kippah, which is a hat, or keter, which is a crown, both go over the head. And power, which is koach, can be used like to suppress someone, to oppress someone, or to, again, be generous and give to someone. So what we have coming up in the near future after our letter Beit is power. There's some kind of power to use in a way that we can wield it for good, ideally, and some sort of reciprocity, like give and take, that we have coming up in the near future with that sovereignty, that keter, that crown that we have over our head, hopefully will be used in a positive way. And again, a balanced way, because you can give and give and give and use yourself up, or you can take and take and take and try to hoard, and neither of those are healthy. But if you can give what you have to give that is appropriate and take what is appropriate for you to receive when you are in need, then there's a good balance between that and not lording over someone power or oppressing another person. So that's coming up in the near future, those ability to use one's power. Above that, we have the letter Tav. And Tav is the final letter of the alphabet, and it is a sign or a seal or a stamp, a signature that has been placed at the end of the alphabet. Some say that it is actually just the signature of the divine. It is the letter that finalizes everything. So it's this manifestation of ending. There's something that says, okay, we're done here. And it's about being imprinted, perhaps like the ancestors imprinting on one's own bones, that we have those energetic signatures in us from ancient times, and we can trust in that. That's a good thing to, it's above, so it's saying this is a positive thing to lean on, is that letter Tav, which says we have those ancestors at our back. It is that's my random chime that helps to remind me that the divine is here. So I was just going to say that it is the binary foundation of sovereignty and slavery. So we need to determine where we exist on that continuum between whether we are sovereign or becoming enslaved to a thing. So as we are figuring out where we stand with the power that's coming to us soon, can we be sovereign in our own bodies and in our own space, and not be enslaved by someone else or even our own habits? It governs over the moon in space. So look up to the moon maybe. Maybe that's going to be a thing that's going to be useful for you as you move forward into 2023. Watch the moon cycles as she changes through the sky, as that moon cycles and circles around. Pay attention to the moon, and maybe you'll get some direction. And then just below, we have Resh. And Resh is the first letter of the word Rosh, which means head or beginning. So we've got a new beginning coming up, and maybe that's a challenge because it's, again, below the main line here. So new beginnings can be really tough. We've got the new year coming up. We just came through the solstice. We've got this new month that just came in, Tevet. And yeah, maybe some other new things coming on in the new year. Maybe a new job, a new school cycle. Whatever it is you've got coming up, this new, it sounds like it could be challenging. The Resh is the binary foundation of seed and barrenness. So maybe a seed that's been planted, but we haven't seen it yet. Maybe it's gestating, and we haven't seen the sprouts yet. So we need to trust that whatever we planted will come into being here. But there may be some fears or challenges around whatever's new. It is about beginnings, and it is the head, so it's about intellect too. But you can see that it's bowed, so so there's some kind of humility. You know, thinking too hard but without humility could be a challenge as well. Like, you want to own your sovereignty, but you don't want to get so big-headed about it that you lose sight of where you stand in relation to what you have power over, which is yourself and your own behavior. Maybe not even your own thoughts or emotions, but at least you have control over your behavior, ideally. Yeah, next on the path line, I'm seeing the letter Nun. And Nun is about humility again. It's about, it's supposed to represent somebody who's kneeling and bent over. And so it's about humbleness and humility and loyalty even. We've got this idea of submission on some level, but it's not a self-deprecation. It's being appropriately humble. Because it's easy to beat oneself up and think, oh, I'm not worthy, I'm not anybody. But that's not what we're about here. If you find yourself in that position, go back up to your own sovereignty. Understand that you are a sovereign being. But it is important to remain humble. And looks like there may be some challenges with humility here. So as we get into that Nun, remember to be humble. It also is the first letter of the word Nes, which means miracle. So it could be having to do with some kind of miracle that's coming up. Something is showing up that's miraculous. And it could be as simple as, noticing nature, noticing the beauty of the world. To be conscious of the miracles that are all around you. The miracle of your own existence, in fact. It is the foundation of locomotion, so it's about slow, steady beginnings and moving forward more and more steadily, not just racing off and exhausting oneself, but getting a steady start and a new foundation. Yeah, the Nun corresponds to, in my reading of it, the Hermit card in the traditional tarot. So there may be something up that is about spending some time considering and some time in solitude maybe to think about what this new year should bring for you. And interestingly, since this is about locomotion, we've got above it the Gimel, and the Gimel is about forward movement. So it is all about walking forward. It is a foot or a camel, and it's about going forward, just being bold and turning toward what you need to turn toward. It is about running toward justice, and we've got the tzedek right here, the tzadi. So yeah, go for it is basically what this is saying. It's time to move ahead. It's about harmony and integration as well. It's the number 3, so it can correspond to those 3 creative mother elements: air, water, and fire. So there's some kind of balance between those 3 elements, and that gives you the materials through which to move forward into whatever it is you're moving forward into. It is the binary transformation of wholeness and brokenness. So since it is on the upper line, it's about finding wholeness. Finding wholeness in your situation. You sit in your hermitude, finding your humility, but slow, steady movement forward, the locomotion, and go for it. Go forward, says the Gimel. And down here below, again, the last concern I have in this reading is the Shin, and Shin is about fire. It is the mother letter of fire, and it is about the stars in the sky and the sun, and the moon, the sun, moon, and stars. And here we have, this is the sun, and this is the moon, and this is all of those things, all those shining lights in the sky. So maybe there's some concern about, it can be about the passion as well. It's about fiery thoughts and feelings. So, and it does correspond to the head in the body. So it could be about anger or like really intense feelings that maybe are disturbing, since this is a little bit lower here. So I wonder if there's some concern about anger or some kind of passion that isn't serving you. But if that's the case, move on to slow, steady growth and move forward. I wouldn't dwell on whatever things flare up right now. I would instead focus on humility and slow, steady growth as you move forward. So just a quick recap as best I can. Our central issue is home. Our central issue is home, and that could be, again, the planet, the body, that we've got this idea of cycles and circles and being surrounded with protection. Even if it's agitation, it could be positive agitation. It could be joy or excitement about a thing. That's really highest up here. So really, really focus in on that idea that things come and go, and that we are protected. That we've got this idea of the infinite. There she is again. We got this idea of the infinite, and knowing that that is with us and here to protect us, and here also just to comfort us, and the search for justice, the search for righteousness. A while back we had the life and the darkness that has been on our central path line, and so we have Chet, which is life, and Choshek, which is darkness, and that has been that's come right before now. There's been some concern about gestation and goodness, and whether there's goodness in this waiting that we've been doing. It's been a little bit challenging to see and to find joy or humor in everything. But we've got our home, our central home, and then we've got the oneness of the divine, that connection with the divine, that divine above and the humanity below, and the connection between, so we can rest in that. And moving a little bit forward, we've got power coming in soon, and the sun, which is again that bright source energy, and using our power for good. There's this idea of some kind of ending, that we could trust in, that there's some kind of thing coming to an end that is powerful and good, and knowing that our ancestors are here with us, that they are imprinted in our bones, and that the moon is in the sky for us to look to for comfort. If we planted a seed and we're concerned about it growing, or we've had some ideas or some beginning, some kind of new thing that's come in, and we're concerned, we just bring ourselves back up to the knowledge that our ancestors are here with us, that we have this connection with the divine, that we are divinely protected, and all things come and go in cycles. And that brings us forward to a sense of humility, and also of forward, steady movement, that locomotion, and that we are to get on that train to move forward, that's okay. And don't be too concerned about flashes in the pan. Don't be concerned about fire. Don't be concerned about destructive fire. but instead move forward. Move forward as you need to move forward. And I'm just going to pull out a couple of runes real quick at the end here. I know this has been kind of a long reading, but this is 2023 coming up. So I'm just going to pull out a few runes and toss them down, see what comes up as well. We got 3. And those 3 runes are, we've got Degas, Sowilo, and Fehu. And Degas is about breakthrough. It's about the sun breaking through and shining, which is beautiful for right now in this time of year, as the sun starts to return and come back from the darkness. It is about day, the dawn breaking through, and awareness, being able to see, and the power to change oneself. Degas. Sowilo, which is the sun, and that is here as source energy. Sowilo is, just about the sun shining through, finding our connection with source energy, good guidance in that wholeness, awareness, goals, hopes, things being achieved, individual victory. So Sowilo right here, and also Fehu. And Fehu is about wealth and cattle. So we have some kind of success again, some success in wealth and abundance, increased happiness and financial gain. And those things I'm just going to lump together as one good message. Source energy, breakthrough, abundance coming your way in 2023. And I thank you so much for showing up and reading. I'm just seeing 2323 on my calendar here, so I love that. Have a wonderful, wonderful last few days of the year, and we will see you in 2023.